With so much success with the Galaxy S3, I feel almost sorry for Samsung when bringing out the Galaxy S4. Too much hype isn't always a good thing because it comes with it so much disappointment when expectations aren't met. But in true Samsung fashion, the S4 is packing a lot. But is it really worth considering the upgrade or the switch over? Let's get into it. Many people put Samsung in the same iteration basket as Apple for sticking with a very familiar design to its predecessor, and it really is. The design hasn't evolved much past the glorious design change we saw from the S2 to the S3, and when you place the two devices screen to screen, the shape is identical, but it looks more boxy even given this knowledge. The change comes with a significantly reduced bezel around the device to accommodate the larger 5-inch display. Still with its roundings, the Pebble theme has been weathered back into more comfortable vertical sides, and this was great in two ways. It allowed the device to hold better in hand with such defined edges, and secondly, while ultimately the sides are still plastic, they look convincingly like brushed aluminium with nice reflective bands on the edges and is an excellent progression of the S3's same design elements. The S4 is slightly thinner at 7.9mm and lighter at 130 grams. Both of which you will notice when you switch over to this device. The front face is protected with a thinner yet stronger Gorilla Glass 3 and does well to resist scratches and smudges. The top of the front face has the 2-megapixel front-facing camera at the top right hand side, neighboured by the ambient light and proximity sensors. The Metal S speaker grille sits centrally with the new infrared sensor on the left of it for those new touchless gestures that we'll get into later, and a hidden notification light further left again, which will blink through red, green or blue depending on the notification type. The bottom of the front face maintains the standard physical home button, but the design of it this time is more symmetrical, and either side are two capacitive buttons hidden, sticking with the menu and back selections. The base of the device holds the micro USB charging port and a microphone, and at the top sees the headphone jack port sharing space with the IR blaster and another microphone. The left hand side has the volume rocker and the right hand side the unlock button, both with enough distinction from the body for ease of use, but the volume rocker is slightly higher up the device and a small stretch at times. The back surface sees the loudspeaker shifted to the bottom with a 13-megapixel camera occupying more space up the top with the LED flash beneath. The rear panel has a subtle texture that gleams through but isn't very noticeable on the White Frost model. The S4 can also be purchased in the Black Mist variant. If you weren't a fan of the slippery plastic of the S3, then look away because not much has changed. I can live with it though. It is sturdy and quality enough without being a selling point like the HTC One's classy new chassis. The rear panel removes again, giving access to the replaceable battery, micro SIM card tray and micro SD card slot. Under the hood, the S4 isn't so S3 with a much beefier performance. 2 gigs of RAM, the new PowerVR GPU, NFC, Bluetooth 4.0, USB OTG via the micro USB slot, and choice of 16, 32 or 64 gigs of internal storage. Now the talk of the town with the i9 500 model is the presence of the new Exynos 5 Octa chipset that is comprised of a quad-core 1.6 GHz Cortex-A15 and a second quad-core 1.2 GHz Cortex-A7. Performance was generally really good. Benchmarks place the S4 well ahead of the crowd, but it isn't a perfect chipset yet. The Big Little architecture actually only uses 4 cores at any one time, and by priority, the A7 chips are active to conserve power, and when required, the high processing abilities of the A15s are activated and an A7 core turned off. This is handled within the software itself, and in Samsung's turn, intelligent switching of load from low performance cores to high performance cores doesn't happen. Rather, is handled by cluster migration, where tasks are switched between clusters instead of individual cores that causes what is being labeled S-lag. Basically, this process is less efficient than actual core switching, and in use, I found the occasional stagger randomly when using applications and attempting to start new tasks. It is rumoured that an upgrade to the Linux kernel behind it all will take place, and the device will be turned to a state where true core migration is achieved and utilization of more than 4 cores at any one time. This will be something to look forward to. Otherwise, it was a beast. Load times were slightly better than the S3 and general use was vastly improved. However, the compromise is there, and this comes with the lack of LTE. However, HSDPA support meant I got good data transmission speeds. Reception quality was excellent and quality of calls superb. The 2600 mAh battery did extremely well to get me through a day. I would cruise to bed with a decent amount of life left, and continuous HD video playback lasted around 6.5 hours. The key with the S4 I found was standby time, where idled would lose just under 1% per hour, and this was gathering all notifications at 15-minute intervals. The big point for me with the Galaxy S4 was the fact that the screen has been boosted to 5 inches, and yet the device size actually managed to be reduced in thickness without blowing out the size past the S3. I always hated the dull brightness of the S3 and poor reproduction of whites, but the 1080p Super AMOLED panel is gorgeous. Viewing angles are superb, whites are wider, and brightness is vastly improved, which made outdoor work much better than on the S3. The sharpness and saturated colours makes the screen vividly appealing and will be sorely missed when I have to return the S4. The accuracy of touch seems improved, and I find typing and swiping to be more accurate. The sensitivity of the touchscreen can be adjusted in the settings to allow use with gloves. Impressively, Samsung managed to get the latest Android Jelly Bean 4.2.2 into its flagship with plenty of its extras and even more newcomers. It is still distinctly a Samsung skin, but updated. The lock screen can be set up in many ways and features the lock screen widgets that are a feature of the latest iteration of Jelly Bean. Besides the quick launch to the camera, I never use these widgets. This is probably because between the notification tab and the quick launch applications you can set, I was pretty much covered with what is offered here. What I love, the new swipe in effect detects your finger off the screen and tracks it around the screen as a gleam of light. Swiping in causes a neat light animation, and I would regularly stuff around with this before each unlock. Once inside, you can have up to 7 home pages, and the transition, animation, and customizations are very familiar. The quick launch bar at the bottom can be adjusted to your preferences, and holding down the home button takes you to the multitasking panel and Task Manager and Google Now. In the app drawer, you get much of the same as you were used to, and this is partly the same as with the notifications tab, where you have the quick settings scrollable from the top with a brightness slider. However, either hit the icon at the top right or use a 2-finger gesture prior, and you get all of these settings at your disposal. The settings menu has been changed up in a big way and broken into 4 sections. I completely get it, and it took me a little while to get accustomed to where everything was, but for newcomers, I think it's a friendly layout. A really big selling point for the S4, besides all the ones mentioned thus far, was the new touchless gestures and tracking. It sucks because I really thought this was going to be some amazing affirmation and trend setting for mobile use, where you can operate very fluidly the entire device without touch. This is not the case, where only within certain applications is this possible, and even fewer are the amounts of times it's beneficial. Swiping gestures require motion to be detected over the sensor at the top of the device and not very far from the screen. This tends to be accurate, but fast swiping works sloppily. I use this within the stock browser to switch between tabs, as it reduced the amount of presses required to normally perform that task. The Air View ability, where the screen detects finger presence off the actual panel surface, was more usable and very accurate, particularly in getting more detail in a list of emails and for viewing albums within the gallery. I would also use it within the stock browser to zoom in on certain parts. What was useless was eye tracking, where essentially it's supposed to track the motion of your pupils, and when you look downwards, the page scrolls down. It works, but only with a head nod, and doing that in public isn't very becoming. Smart Pause was really efficient at stopping a playing movie or video when I would turn away from the display and start back up when I turned back. But I would turn it off because it was painful to deal with on a day-to-day basis, and when you simply just want your freedom to look away. Some new key applications are also present. Watch On is Samsung's solution to the remote and TV planner. Utilizing the IR Blaster, you can access local TV guides and control use of the TV and set-top boxes. The Group Play app is a neat way to share content with up to 8 other S4 users, in particular playing the same track on 8 devices all synced up. I can pretty much never see that happening, however collaborating on documents and gaming may be relevant here. Chat On has been updated to allow 3-way video chat. The S Planner is tidier and more helpful than ever, utilizing well the air gestures. The same is present in the new video application. Plus, Samsung decided to spruce up some icon designs for apps, but not all, which is a shame. S Health is another fantastic addition to monitor and track your fitness, health, and weight loss needs. While it's hardly treading new ground, it comes pre-bundled and is a pretty solid effort. Walking Mate offers GPS tracked measurement of distance, as well as making use of the device's ability to act as a pedometer to measure steps. Exercise Mate allows you to calculate the amount of energy burned in a workout and goes hand in hand with Food Mate, your calorie tracker for the day. This is all personalized by your attributes and goals you set and tracked in a graphical layout. Heck, you can even set your preferred comfort level for working out in terms of desired temperature and humidity, and the S4 has the appropriate sensors to tell you this. However, if you get the Weather Signal app, you can also then get a lot more data about light, lux, pressure, and magnetic flux in the area you're currently at. The last app I truly cared about was S-Translator. Choosing from a host of languages, it's very easy and simple to translate typed or spoken text to another language. This can also be spoken to you in that language. This would be a fantastic companion on world trips or when facing an awkward exchange with someone who doesn't speak your language. It worked really well. Understood perfectly almost every sentence I spoke to it, and this takes me to S-Voice, the S4's voice command center. It has been updated to work far more effectively and efficiently than its previous efforts. Coupled with S-Drive, you could easily dock and use the S4 via voice commands to perform a host of standard tasks when driving. While there are plenty of other inclusions, I rarely found time for them, as whilst they functioned okay and performed the role defined, they didn't offer me much in the way of innovating above the pack. The increased security through Samsung Knox is very welcome though. For me, compact 5-inch 1080p devices are likely to dominate for a while. It blows out the display to a size that makes gaming and videos a glorious vision without interrupting the ergonomics. And Samsung offers plenty of neat ways to make this experience work for you with the new technology for sharing via screen mirroring. The audio quality, I will say, was very clean and crisp, but still not the best I've ever heard, but had plenty of loudness and certainly not a detractor. The included headphones are slightly better than previous efforts with pretty reasonable bass. The stock browser, like I had said, comes coupled with touchless gestures and tracking, and on Java benchmarks outperformed Google Chrome, so I found myself using that as default. However, if you would like Adobe Flash Player, you can download it, but it will only run on Firefox. But center stage in the S4 was the brilliant 13 megapixel camera. Not only was the optics truly spectacular and likely one of the best smartphone cameras I have ever used, the software layout and inclusions has been blown out to a level that will be hotly sought after. Daytime shots were very crisp and excellent depth of field and a lagless shutter. Night shots gave reasonable detail without creating too much unwanted noise, and the software tended to render images with plenty of saturated colors to make pictures look more breathtaking than what they probably are. Love or hate that idea, most of the shots I got out of the S4 were stunning. The OS has been updated and modes are the main focus. Of great interest is Best Face and Best Photo. That takes a series of photos to either select the best in a short succession or individually correct a group of individuals to achieve the best photo. Drama can create cool photos of moving subject, and Eraser can remove unwanted people from nice scenic shots. These tended to work accurately, but only in the right circumstances. The S4 also allows dual camera use, and this for me seems gimmicky to the max, and something the average user will never use unless completely vain. Manual exposures are still possible, but the process feels unnecessarily elongated in the S4, and in a lot of circumstances, one of the modes will likely get you what you need. You can adjust the quick settings, however, to give faster access to specific settings. Shooting with a 16:9 ratio limits you to a photo size of 9.6, so if you want the full 13 megapixels, you need to set a 4:3 ratio. The 2 megapixel front-facing camera is brilliant with video chat, and video on both cameras is fantastic. I will say though, with the camera application was where I tended to notice the worst effects of the so-called S-lag, and it regularly stalled for extended periods of time. You must consider the S4 from two perspectives, a returning S3 customer and a newcomer to either the Android platform or a Galaxy device. For the S3 customer, the S4, while packaged much the same, offers enough of an improvement across the board to be a worthwhile investment. Using the two devices one after the other, I am grossly unimpressed by the S3 now. For someone coming into the Android world, the onboard applications will definitely make the transition more friendly, as you will spend less time trying to find suitable replicas on the Play Store, and for somebody looking for a Galaxy device for the first time, I feel the price point is a little much and the S3 is still a perfectly great phone if you haven't spent much time with the latest and greatest Android devices of 2013, and really can't fork out a top tier sort of dollar. Every aspect of the S4 is more polished, more refined, and improved in a way that makes me understand that Samsung deserves to retain the credit received for the S3. However, For the discerning tech-hungry folk, amendments to the device's chassis and giving an octa-core experience to all with LTE could have catapulted Samsung well ahead of the game for another consecutive year, but I feel HTC will probably win back a lot of ground and Sony and LG hot on the heels with the Xperia Z and Optimus G respectively. Pick up the S4 in a quad or octa-core flavor unlocked and outright from mobicity.com by following the link in the description. I'm Kurt, this is KABOOtech, thanks for watching.